Going live. Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNativeBloodyElbow.com, and I'm here with Dallas Winston and the very late, the very, very, very tardy Connor Winston. If you're mad because you've been waiting for the show to start, tweet at BoxingBush, B-U-S-C-H, and let him know how you feel about it. And we are here to vivisect the living corpse of UFC Fight Night Henderson versus Kabalov, also known as UFC Fight Night Albuquerque, sometimes known as UFC Fight Night. I don't even know. Are they numbered 42 or 43, depending if you go with Wikipedia or Showdog?
Sometimes known as Henderson
now?
versus... Yeah, sometimes known as Henderson versus Nurmagomedov.
We're letting you talk?
I don't remember you asking him. And even though we said we were going to be mean to Connor...
To say, Connor, this is the point in the show where I say, do you have any general thoughts on the show? Dallas.
Well, I know we were going to be mean to Connor, but you did say Connor Winston in there, so...
That's true.
I said
so
Connor
hard
Winston?
not to be. Yeah.
That's terrible. Sorry, Dallas. Sorry, Dallas.
It's okay. I forgive you. All right. It's cool, man.
Good. So, general thoughts on the show? Not this show. The show we're going to be watching Saturday on Fox Sports 1.
Interesting
Dallas?
disclaimer. I know where that came from. Actually, it's a pretty good card. Actually, I don't know whether I'm just very displeased with the last debacle or whatever the hell I sat in front of for 13 hours on Saturday. You know, it was rough with that 2 consecutive shows, but the fact that the cards actually played out in piss poor fashion really
The
made
Germany
it
card wasn't that bad. It's just
the first one.
Yeah, it's the entertainment value declined as the hours dragged by. That was the problem with that card.
And the Brazil card did genuinely suck after that one brawl in the prelims. It was pretty slow.
Yeah, the Edova fight was pretty good. Who beat him? Who beat Edova?
Souza. Kevin Asim something. His nickname is Kevin, which is a terrible nickname, but Kevin Souza.
Different strokes for different folks. In Brazil, it's a whole different thing. But
Eddie
anyway,
Wilson.
we've got a card to chop through. So we'll start with the UFC Fight Pass preliminary. Only one fight. The one, the only Starbucks toughest barista, Patrick Cummins against Roger Narvaez at light heavyweight. Thoughts on this one, Dallas?
Thanks, Nate.
You're welcome. You were on time today.
You're supposed to be punishing me. If you wanted to punish me, you'd have me go first.
That's true. It's good.
Huh, okay, go first. Huh.
Patrick Cummins, Dallas, to you.
Well, actually, I think Cummins had a pretty decent showing against, Cormier. Cormier, I never
You're really going to let him weasel out of that like that? Dallas?
Yeah, just because, I've been sitting here for as long as we do a show normally, getting ready to do the show, so I'm ready to get the shit moving. So Cummins, actually, I thought he did pretty well. I'd never really seen him fight before. Cormier, I never jump on the hype train. I rarely do ahead of time. I usually wait for them to prove, and I am super, super impressed with Cormier. I actually might pick him against Jones when that comes up. Food for thought for later. But so I was pretty impressed with Cummins. I don't know how do you say this cat's last name. Narvaez? Narco?
Narvaez, I would assume. He's Spanish or Brazilian? I don't know.
We don't care. We're going to fuck either of those.
Either way, the vowels are all syllables in either one of those languages. Every vowel should be a syllable. Well, that's not true in Portuguese. Goddamn diphthongs. I don't know, man. I have no idea. Why are you asking me? I'm the world's worst pronouncer of names.
I don't think I did ask you to be technical. I think I just made a statement and you launched it. But it's okay. I forgive you, Nate, because you were on time.
He's from Corpus Christi, Texas.
I'm not from Corpus Christi, Texas. I've barely even been to Corpus. Oh, Narvaez is from Corpus Christi, Texas.
Everybody's all fucking sensitive today.
Have you ever been to Corpus Christi? It's not something you accuse people of.
How dare you tell me I'm from Corpus Christi?
Isn't that where Legend of Billie Jean was shot?
I don't think so. No.
All right, well that's
maybe I don't know. But anyway, back to Narvaez. It's Narvaez because it's Spanish. So
I just got 2 things I want to get out here. He's 6-0. He's got black belts in jiu-jitsu and taekwondo. So could be kind of interesting. Cummins is going to be, if he's decent stand-up. Again, hard to gauge him against Cormier, but it might be interesting if Cummins gets on top and we get to see this guy work off his back a little bit. But that's kind of all I got. I mean, I think you got to be leaning Cummins here.
And Connor, are there any last names that come to mind you would rather not have than Cummins?
There are worse names than Cummins. I mean, Cox is a name. That's a lot more direct than Cummins.
But that's more common than Cummins.
Dick Shoe, Bob Dick Shoe.
I know somebody named Cummings.
I think Cummins is worse, but
You think
Kuntz is worse. I know two people.
I've not heard
that
name.
Yeah, they try to say Kuntz, but
I should have picked that for my pen name. Connor Kuntz.
That would have gone over great with the corporate masters. Anyway, what do you have to say about this fight?
I mean, I don't know. Narvaez might have a Taekwondo black belt, but I have to imagine it's from when he was 13 years old because he doesn't really come across like a seasoned striker in his fights. Cummins. I mean, neither of these guys. Both the records are comparable to me. The only experience either one of them has had at any kind of high level is Cummins getting smashed by Cormier. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Cummins. I think he's a safer pick. He didn't look terrible for what could be expected on like 7 days' notice against Cormier. He just got starched by one of the best heavyweights and light heavyweights in the world. So I'm going to pick Cummins. I think he'll be more powerful on top, and I think we'll probably get to see him working his top game, which is quite good. But,
Dallas, did you actually make a pick?
Yeah. Pick Cummins.
And did you tweet this out to Bloody Elbow?
Yes, I did. Thanks for the heads up.
And everybody give us a like on YouTube if you're watching that. We need the likes. Patrick,
how do you give the like? Is there a hand gesture you can show?
Thumb under the screen, and you click on the thumb up. You don't click on the thumbs down. Only stupid people click on the thumbs down because they can't tell it from the thumbs up. So don't be a stupid person. Click on the thumbs up. Patrick Cummins is heavily favored, minus 315 all the way up to minus 435 on some lines. I'm getting my odds from bestfightodds.com.
You realize 20 people are going to quick dislike now just based on that ringing endorsement. Hey, fuck.
I'm not responsible for the dummies. I'm only responsible for the smarties.
You know what?
That is not true. You own and operate Bloody Elbow, son. You're
Hey, let me give the odds. Narvaez is the underdog anywhere from plus 255 all the way up to plus 300. I have to think Narvaez is kind of tempting at those odds.
Yeah, is there any reason for that other than the fact that people know Cummins' name and they don't know Narvaez's?
That's what it takes. That's how the world works.
They've got about the same type of experience. I mean...
Yeah, but people didn't bother to do that research. They just threw their money down because that's what they like to do. And that brings us to the preliminary card on Fox Sports 1. Lightweights John Tuck and Jake Lindsay. Connor.
I'm biased in this pick because I know Jake Lindsay. Not very well, but he's part of a Facebook group that I'm a part of, and
you probably better recuse yourself then. This is a serious operation. This is the MMA Vivisection. We can't have bias.
That's true. That's true. I should make myself an impartial observer. That being said, I think that Jake Lindsay does genuinely have the skill set to beat John Tuck. I've seen a lot of his fights, and Jake is, he's got a diverse skill set when it comes to coming forward and throwing strikes. He's very good at getting back to his feet, and he's got power in his hands, and he's got some good knees, too. His clinch knees are very dangerous. And I guess the combination of me being impressed with Jake, me knowing him, and then the fact that I've never really been impressed with John Tuck is making it pretty easy for me to pick Lindsay over Tuck here. But that's, again, it's a pretty biased pick, so don't bet based on that alone. Wait till you hear what Dallas says.
I see. Dallas, what do you have to say?
Well, I follow John Tuck on Twitter, so I basically golf with him every Friday. No, actually, Connor's right. I can't fuck with him. Lindsay's pretty legit. He's undefeated. I want to say most are finishes, and many are in the first round. Connor, he's pretty tall, too, for a featherweight, right? Isn't he about a 6-footer?
He's 5'11". He's a pretty big guy.
Okay, I think Tuck is just a little bit shorter than there. You know, this is
5'11" for a featherweight. It's pretty tall.
Both of those, yeah, those are pretty tall for featherweights, or amongst the taller. This is kind of one where anytime.
This is a lightweight fight. Why are you talking about featherweights?
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, you're right. He's moving up to lightweight. Well, because Lindsay has fought at featherweight.
Yeah.
But he is still an inch taller than Tuck.
Well, anytime you both have a guy debuting, that's one thing. You just have no idea, and especially when the guy's undefeated and has really kind of cleaned up. I think he was the Victory Fighting Championships lightweight champ. Damn it, see, I knew that. So forgive the featherweight error. So, I mean, I don't know. Who the hell knows? I know John Tuck is tough as shit. He's, damn it, where is he from? Guam. He's from Guam, and Guam's a little bit like Hawaii in the fact that you don't find, guys that are easy to run over from Guam. So I think Lindsay's going to have trouble putting him away, and it'll be a test for him because I do think that Tuck will drag him a little bit into the later rounds. So Maybe Tuck is the safer pick, honestly. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a coin flip. Maybe Tuck based just on, he's been in the UFC, he's fought some tough guys, and he's done pretty well. So I would just, I don't know what the odds are on this one, but this should not be a blowout. This should not be a blowout for Tuck.
But you're both picking Lindsay. The odds makers disagree. They've got Tuck favored anywhere from minus 155 all the way up to minus 200. And Lindsay's the underdog anywhere from plus 135 all the way up to plus 120 all the way up to plus 143. So not a huge range there, but a little bit. And that brings us to flyweight. Scott Jorgensen versus Danny Martinez. Scott Jorgensen has not had a great deal of luck moving down to flyweight. Connor.
Yeah, I wouldn't even just say flyweight. Scott Jorgensen hasn't had a great deal of luck in like the past 3 or 4 years. It's been kind of a rough run for Scott, where he still looks competitive enough in all of his matchups, and they're against tough enough competition that you've got to say, okay, he's still at the upper end of his divisions, and yet he just can't seem to make it happen. He almost he had good moments against Uriah Faber. Didn't he almost submit Uriah? He had his back or something, didn't he?
I don't know that he almost submitted him.
For some reason, I remember him jumping on the guillotine or having Uriah Faber's back and hitting him on the feet. Maybe it was that he was just beating him up on the feet a lot more than I expected him to be able to. Regardless of what it was, I remember thinking that, Scott Jorgensen is pulling away with this fight, and then Uriah beat him. Uriah finished him. But Jorgensen's that kind of level. He's just like an upper-tier journeyman at this point, where he's never going to really break through, it seems. Yeah, I feel bad for him, and I want him to do better. That being said, I think he's still better than Danny Martinez. I don't think Danny Martinez is the kind of guy who's like Zach Makovsky, like unproven, but obviously a very talented fighter in his class. Jorgensen, I'm not really. I think Jorgensen is what's Eugene's term? Is it gicked or gickta for a guy that I
it's
really
a guy I can't trust and a guy I can't trust anymore, which are two different
anymore
categories.
Is worse.
Yeah, well, that means he once trusted him and no longer.
I think that he's not quite a gickta for me, but I really can't trust him to beat.
He's definitely a gicked. You cannot be if you're trusting Scott Jorgensen at this point.
It's a cumbersome acronym.
Yeah, well, it is. For a long time, I thought a gifta, but I thought he had a dirty word in there, but he didn't.
Jorgensen is. I mean, Danny Martinez is a solid fighter. He's a solid mid-tier guy. Basically, this is kind of the deciding point in Jorgensen's career. If he can't beat Martinez, he's officially no longer a upper tier flyweight or bantamweight, whatever he decides to end up in. He's officially out of the top of the division in my mind.
Yep. And Dallas, what's your take?
Am I having an acid flashback, or is Connor's doing some kind of Zoom blurry?
Yeah, it goes out of focus sometimes. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, we're not putting up with that shit.
No.
First I'm late, now I'm out of focus. This is what I look like.
I was trying to think of all these different ways that we could, I wanted to work with Nate to really spend some time devising a theme and a way to be a dick to you, and it's not working. So that's all we got. Anyways, you're totally right on Jorgensen. Who was it? So he smashed Ken Stone, and then he guillotined somebody, and the poor little guy was up in the air, and his little legs were flapping around like a wee babe.
I can't remember who that was, but it was incredible. He was about to pop the dude's head off in the WFC.
Yeah. And I want to say those finishes were close or consecutive, and he smashed Ken Stone.
It was Chad George.
Yeah, Chad George.
Oh, and he's a pretty legit fighter, too. Mm-hmm. But after that, man, I mean, he has just gone really, really downhill. So I think he needs to, although...
The thing is... Look, I'm going to read...
Make me wait for 45 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to read the names of his losses. Dominic Cruz, Henan Barao, Eddie Wineland, Uriah Faber, Zach Makovsky, Jussier Da Silva. None of those are bad fighters, and only the last two are not absolute elites in their division. That's why it's hard to say just yet that he's over with, especially with how good he looked against Faber.
And I don't remember the Faber fight. He could have had his moments, but I remember that...
He took him to the fourth round, so it was... I mean...
and maybe, there's so many fights nowadays, and now that I'm not going back and studying everyone, I kind of just don't know. But anyways, on top of everything Connor just said, which I agree with, Danny Martinez, the Gremlin, tough dude, but I mean, monumental step down. I mean, who Connor just listed? They're the best in the world at that weight class. That being said, I was going to say Scotty needs to shift something up, man, because he's always in the same gear, the same pace. He shuffles forward in a straight line, kind of looking for that jab. So if I were him looking down the road, I would just look to maybe train the shit out of your jiu-jitsu. I don't know, add something, like spice that shit up, do something. But against Danny Martinez, it's not that he shouldn't do that, but I think that the good old, reliable, venerable Scotty Jorgensen will probably be able to get a win over him. But this would actually be a good test to see if he has declined a little bit, because Martinez is the kind of dude that's, again, like a really tough dude. He'll take every little inch that you give him, and if you leave any openings, he'll jump on him. So, got to go with Jorgensen here, but I will lose a lot of faith if he doesn't look good in this one.
Well,
Nate,
Jorgensen.
Can I say one more thing about this matchup before we wrap it up?
Quickly.
All right. Well, for Jorgensen, it's either one of two things, going off of what Dallas said. He's either the guy who, like Diego Sanchez, goes into the gym, works really hard, but does the same thing every single time. And so he's never going to improve because he's not working towards anything. Or, much like Takeya Mizugaki, he's just been pitted against the top of the division and hasn't been able to get over for so long that he needs to be built up against lower-tier guys before he can make another run. So I'm tempted to think it's the former just because he's looked unimpressive in his last two fights. But Mizugaki was win-loss for like 6 years, and now he's a title contender. He's got a 5-fight win streak. So
anything can happen in MMA in MMA, and Scott Jorgensen is favored. Yeah, that's enough out of you. Minus 220 all the way up to minus 270, and Martinez is the underdog anywhere from plus 190 all the way up to plus 212, and that brings us to welterweights Bobby Volker and Lance Benoist, or is it Benoit?
It's Benoist.
Benoist. God damn it. How do you... anyway.
I can't not say Benoit when I look at that name.
I know, it's Benoit. Does anybody even talk about Benoit balls anymore? When I was a kid and I first got into Dirty Books, that was like a big deal, but I don't think anybody even know what that means.
It's been referenced in Archer, actually. It's been referenced in Archer.
Ah, well, good. I've seen that show. That's how hip I am.
A lot of Archer fans on VE, they'll like when you say Benoit balls.
All right. I'm glad I'm pleasing these young kids today. All right, tell us about the fight, Connor.
I'm not really interested in this one, to be honest. Bobby Volker is like a guy who I really thought I liked because I have a soft spot for come forward brawler bruisers, guys like Marcos Maidana in boxing. But Volker doesn't have what it takes to be that kind of fighter successfully at the top level, which is either deceptively good defense. If you're going to be a Julio Cesar Chavez, you need to be good at making sure the shots don't land clean, or let the guy think he's landing clean when actually you're in a good position to absorb it. And Volker can't do that. He's gotten really, really beat up in his last, 3 or 4 fights coming forward and hurt in every single one of them. You either need that or you need to be the kind of guy who gets better when you get hurt, who gets really, really angry and tough and determined and just gets into the zone once getting hurt. And Volker doesn't look like that either. He kind of just goes through the fight, and he's tough as all get out, but he just doesn't have what it takes to make his style work. I think this is pretty obvious loser leaves town match. Both guys are coming off of Benoist is coming off of 2 losses. Volker's coming off, 3?
Hasn't Benoist been gone for over a year, though? Yeah, sure dog him, Nate, because this is one guy I forgot to research.
Volker has lost to Cote, Lawler, and Macario, which, except for the last one, those aren't terrible losses. Macario's not a terrible loss either, but it's not the level of Cote and it's definitely
Macario
Lawler.
Looked amazing in that fight.
He did. Benoist, his last fight was in 2012, and he lost 2 losses, Seth Bashinsky and Sean Pearson, both decent welterweights.
Where's he been? Anybody know? That's a long-ass layoff. That's like
that really is.
ACL.
See, so I'm going with Volker in this one. That's a really big one right there, that layoff. Benoist just coming off of losses to guys who aren't quite as impressive as Volker's losses, because that really was a coming out party for Macario. He looked incredible in that fight against Volker. And I think Volker is tough enough to beat someone like Benoist, who only has a 6-2 record, whereas Volker's 24-11. I mean, that's that's a guy who's been in the game for a long time and knows a few tricks. And
How old is Bobby? He's up there a little, right?
Mid-30s, I think. Let's see. He is 35.
So I wish I would have researched this a little more. I overlooked this one because I remember Benoist came out about the same time as James Head. And this is when I was actually like really following all the new entries and everything. And I was really encouraged by his past credentials and watching his past fights. So damn it, I wish I would have. And I wish I also knew what the layoff was, but I guess I'll make it like a care, don't care moment.
Well, he got hurt. He was supposed to fight Paulo Thiago last April and got hurt and pulled out of that fight. They didn't report what the injury was, so he's been out for about a year and a couple months with that injury.
Well, I mean, I don't have a calculator, but if he's been out since 2012.
Well, that was his last fight, but he was set for a fight after that.
He was booked to fight in April of 2013. And
yeah, so what the fuck's he been doing since? You know what I mean? That's
well,
so
there
maybe
must
two
have been
injuries.
A serious injury, and/or they couldn't book him. I mean, they've got a lot of guys on the roster, and it's not.
It's not.
It's not easy to book these guys. Just like
they didn't specify the injury. So
come on, move along. We're still in the prelims. We got nobody cares about these fights.
I'm gonna go with Benoist. Just based. It's kind of my care, don't care moment. But I used to be high on him. I might be high now, but I'm gonna pick him.
All right, and the odds makers, they like Bobby Volker. And again, this might be the name thing. It's not a very wide spread. Volker is favored anywhere from minus 140 all the way up to minus 175. Lance Benoist is the underdog anywhere from plus 120 all the way up to plus 110 all the way up to plus 129. So
hopefully there's like 5 acceptable pronunciations for his name. We got Benoist, Benoist.
My apologies to his mother for mispronouncing his name. That brings us to flyweight. Sergio Pettis versus Yalcin Meza. Sergio Pettis, younger brother of lightweight champion, something of a phenom who got derailed in his last fight. What do you think about this one? And then Dallas, I'll let you go first.
That's kind of what I was saying about the hype train thing is, of course, Sergio Pettis, there's every reason in the world to be excited about the kid, but, man, how do you bring him in against Bruce Leroy? You know? I mean, Bruce Leroy, I don't know whether people just don't like him or he's seriously underrated, but that is a very talented young kid, and he's at the age where he's going to keep showing, or he has the potential to show major improvements. And actually, I think not major in the overall scheme of things, but he's really looked better in a lot of different little areas. And this is another one. Like, I don't know exactly what Meza's wrestling credentials are, but I want to say they're pretty damn good. He trains with a bunch of wrestlers. This is a really tough matchup for Sergio. And he's all finesse at this point, and speed and quickness. And Meza's actually, he looked pretty damn good in his debut. He looks to be a pretty agile and explosive guy, and he's got some power and strength, both in the way he punches and physically. So, man, I don't know. This is a really tough matchup. I mean, I guess my instinct was to go with Meza, so I'm going to kind of stick to it. Nothing against Sergio Pettis whatsoever. But I think, Meza's got the type of game that's going to really give him troubles. And I would still like to see Sergio do some shit in the UFC at this level before I really, get super hyped about him and think he's got great potential or whatever. But at this point, I'm going to take Meza.
And Connor?
I think, I don't know if I would even say that Sergio Pettis, I think you used the word struggled, Nate, against Caceres. What I really thought he was winning that fight up until the point when he got submitted. It was a veteran move from Caceres, although he's not much of a veteran, but it was a crafty finish for him because I think he was well on his way to a 29-28 loss. So the fact that he can do that to someone like Alex Caceres is pretty impressive, but sometimes I think the UFC's matchmakers kind of buy into the hype of these prospects, so rather than seeing if they can prove themselves now that they're in the UFC, they put them into a fight that they should win if they are as good as advertised, which you kind of have to find out first.
Exactly.
I think that Meza would have been a better fight for him to come in against than Caceres. I think Meza is an easier opponent than Caceres, who is
really?
I do. I think that Caceres is very multifaceted. Also, let's compare the size of Sergio Pettis to Caceres. Caceres is a huge bantamweight. The guy is...
Caceres was his second UFC fight. He had that win against Will Campuzano before that.
That's true. That's true.
And I did think he kind of struggled against Campuzano myself.
in Campazano is tough, but just the reason I piped up when Connor said that is, despite Caceres's height and length, he wanted to stay out, hang out on the fringe, and throw hands with him, which is right up Sergio's alley. Mesa's going to want to get right in his face and get in the phone booth and suck out all the air and take him down. So that's just why it seemed like Mesa may be a worse matchup.
I think it. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I guess. Thing is though that Mesa got smashed on the ground by Chico Camus in his last fight. Camus. And there's the other name that I want to pronounce like it's French. Chico Camus completely outworked Mesa. I mean, he was all over him in top position. That was a fight where I picked Mesa based on his grappling credentials, and he really didn't look like a grappler in that fight. I mean, Camus was all over him throughout that fight and didn't seem to have any trouble. And Pettis has as many wins by submission as he does by TKO or KO. He's very, very crafty off of his back, just like his brother. He got a very good guard game. I think he had a finish by omoplata somewhere in his career.
He's got a sick guard game for sure.
He has a
and
very
just
good
in my defense, I do not remember the Camus-Mesa fight whatsoever.
Oh, yeah. Camus worked Mesa on the ground. He was all over him, top position, basically sat in half guard and just beat him up. So, and Mesa didn't look like he could do anything about it. So, and Camus is not an incredible grappler either.
Yeah, I mean, that's like an oversight enough where I might want to change my pick because of it. But that's why the fans tune in for expert analysis.
Well, that's why I was so surprised when I saw that fight. Nobody expected Camus to do that to Mesa. So it may have been Camus improving a lot, but Mesa should have been able to do better than he did. I'm going to go ahead and pick Sergio Pettis. I thought he did admirably well against a really tough fighter in Alex Caceres. And, yeah, he's a very talented guy. I think Mesa is a more reasonable matchup, a journeyman at 20 wins and 9 losses. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Sergio Pettis. Yes. Unanimous decision.
And Sergio is heavily favored, anywhere from minus 440 all the way up to minus 789, 769, which is a crazy bad odds there. Yeah, it's amazing.
I'd like to just officially rescind my pick there.
And so you're going to go with Pettis, get on the hype train?
Yeah, Connor was so convincing.
Leaving the station. All right, so Yatsen Meza is the underdog anywhere from plus 325 all the way up to plus 415. Not an enormous band. And that brings us to the first fight of the main card, bantamweights Eric Perez and Brian Caraway. My apologies to Mr. Caraway. Yesterday I accused him of elbowing Ronda Rousey in the head. Obviously it was Kat Zingano that he allegedly elbowed in the back of the head. So sorry about that, Brian. I had the wrong chick you were allegedly assaulting there. Anyway, who's
touching apology.
So sorry.
Who wants to talk about this one first?
Well, maybe I can go first sometime.
All right, you go first.
I was here early. I don't have a lot to say. Just kidding. Be serious, for God's sakes. I'm leaning Perez in this one, and that's another guy that was super hyped. I was a little reserved on, but I think we got a good taste of him now, and he's talented, he's mean, he's diverse. And Caraway, I don't know. I mean, when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he was lauded for his wrestling, and I didn't really see it then. But damn, in a couple of his fights afterwards, he has looked like the wrestler that he was touted as. Excellent level changes in penetration. Although he doesn't seem to always be in that mode. I don't know what you guys think. It always reminds me of like Vitor Belfort. After you see one of the infamous Vitor flurries, every time as soon as he, the fight starts, you're screaming, do the flurry thing. So I don't know, maybe I'm guilty of that, but Caraway does not seem consistent. He seems to have like little momentum swings, but he's also a really, really good scrambler. I don't know what the odds on this fight are, but this is a lot of fights on this card are really tough to call, especially after we get up to the main card here. When Caraway's on, he could be the perfect opponent for Eric Perez, but I think I'm going to lean towards Perez just because he's been a little more consistent. He seems mentally tougher, and I mean, you kind of know what you're going to get with him. I was going to say wildly offensive, but not to the point where he's leaving himself wide open. I like his level of aggression and going after, offensive moves and being moderately risky without completely leaving himself wide open. So I think if Caraway can put him on his back and keep him there, or if he can take his back. I want to say Caraway's really good at taking the back, and again, excellent scrambling. So that's the way I see him winning it. I don't know if he can be in that mode or on all the way through, so I'm going to kind of go with Perez here, although I'm not feeling super strong about it.
And Connor?
Yeah, this is one that I'm having trouble picking too. This is one that I'm basically going to decide as I talk through it, because the last Perez fight that I saw, funny, both these guys had recent fights against Mizugaki. The last Perez fight I saw was against Mizugaki, and but that's the one that I remember most clearly anyway. I know he fought Figueroa since then, but he didn't look that great against Mizugaki. He looked tough, and that's exactly what Dallas said. He's a tough guy. He's mean. He likes to fight, but he didn't really seem to have any technical answers for what Mizugaki was trying to do to him. But I completely agree with what Dallas said about Caraway. Caraway's a guy who, when he's on, is very, very impressive. He's an incredible scrambler, excellent snatching up submissions in those scrambles. He's really good, but then these mental lapses like the one that he had against Mizugaki, he basically just, gave up partway through that fight, and that's really not a good sign, you know what I mean? He's a guy prone to mental lapses. Eric Perez is a guy who's prone to just not being polished enough to be a top fighter yet. Really tough to pick. I'm going to go ahead and say Perez. I don't think that Caraway is going to be able to get Perez down, and I also don't think that Caraway is the kind of guy who's a polished enough striker to handle aggression like Perez has on the feet. But I'm going to say it's going to be like a split decision. I'm thinking this one's going to be pretty narrow win for Perez.
The oddsmakers have this one very tight as well. Caraway a slight underdog. Most people have him anywhere from -102 up to -125. Eric Perez in there at -105 all the way up to -120. So it's hard. I can't even parse out who's favored here, but it's a hair splitter, as they say. And that brings us to lightweights: Peter Hallman and Yves Edwards. Connor, you talk first.
Yves Edwards, man. He's going out the way that all veterans seem to go out, right? He's not had a very good run in this past 3 fights. I guess, Yves Edwards is another guy who's only lost to really good competition until very recently, when he's still been losing to decent competition. But the one that really, aside from the Yancy Medeiros knockout, which he looked okay in that fight up to that, before that knockout, the one that stands out to me, though, is Isaac Valley Flag. That was 2 fights ago. He lost a split decision. He didn't look terrible in that fight either, but I think Cruikshank beat him up. Medeiros beat him up and knocked him out. He's been knocked out pretty often recently. Hallman is another guy who brings the kind of pressure as Isaac Valley Flag, a similar style of fighter in that he comes forward. He's kind of hittable, but he's really relies on pressuring you and dragging you down. And I think that this is Hallman's fight to lose. I think that if he fights the way he normally fights, even if he just fights as well as he fought against Al Iaquinta, he should win this fight.
And Dallas?
Yeah, man, you gotta love. So Yves is one of my all-time favorites. He's not only like a pioneer and a legend. I mean, when was his first fight? I mean, he's got to be going on like close to damn near 15 years in the sport at this point, right? I want to say he started right about the turn of the century.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might have even been a little earlier. He was one of the top lightweights in the world in 2003, 2004.
1997 at the World Pancration Championships.
Yep.
Wow. So first of all, it's a credit that, and he's been fighting at a high level. So he was pretty much the uncrowned lightweight champ, right? After he knocked out Josh Thompson with the flying.
That was in 2004. Kick. Yeah, that was.
And then he went over to Pride, and damn,
he beat Hermes Franca.
He did, yeah. And the way though that my boy Maha Sakurai dismantled Yves on the feet was a thing of beauty. I mean, holy shit. That's one of the reasons why I always like Sakurai. But man, that whole tournament was still my favorite. Some of the best times in MMA. And so Hallman, refresh my memory. I was really thrilled in his debut, and then was it Iaquinta that he fought in his follow-up and lost?
Iaquinta made him look like a slightly better version of Ryan Couture.
Yeah, and man, Hallman looked excellent when he first came on too. I'm actually kind of leaning Hallman here. Again, we always talk about when guys that haven't been in the UFC, they're young, and I think Hallman was undefeated when he came in. Then he came in and looked phenomenal, and I think it was on short notice too. And then he did not look good in the Iaquinta fight, but man, Iaquinta's a beast. And how shocking was it that he fucking lost that last fight? That was a I
That
did
was a
not see
huge
that one.
upset.
Another guy like Caraway with just the mental lapses just gives things up when he shouldn't.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's it. But man, I kind of want to pick Eves because anytime I have an old veteran, a guy that like a personal favorite that I really love, like a Nogueira, anytime I start thinking, hey, be a grown up now, Dallas, be responsible, pick the logical thing. And then when my guy actually comes in and wins, I want to just shoot myself in the face after that. So that's the respect I'm giving to Eves because that's just the kind of dude that commands respect. But I'm going to go Hallman here.
Wow. Dallas is going with Hallman breaking away from Yves Edwards.
I think both of us
feel worse about it.
But yeah, both of us feel shitty picking Hallman because I think both of us have similar feelings about Yves Edwards. The guy's awesome. But
yeah,
if it wasn't against Yves, I like Hallman. I think he's got a great upside.
But I feel bad picking against Yves Edwards.
Yeah.
But the odds makers are with you. They've got Hallman favored anywhere from -172 up to -190. Yves Edwards is the underdog anywhere from +150 all the way up to +160. Not a huge range, but enough to hurt for those of us who remember the glory days of Yves Edwards at the top of the division. And that brings us to fellow, let's see, Rafael Dos Anjos and Jason High also at lightweight. When did Jason High move down to lightweight? Wasn't he a welter for a while?
Was it one fight ago, or is this his lightweight debut? I know it was a very recent thing.
I remember reading he was going to do that. Yeah. And he might be a beast at
This is his lightweight debut.
Yep. He'd be a big lightweight. He was a muscular welterweight.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if he can make the weight cut. And you want to go first, Connor, since you're already opining? Unasked?
Sure. Since I'm just butting in, as is my want, I think this is a pretty uncompetitive matchup. I think that Jason High is a big dude. I like Jason High. The UFC doesn't like Jason High because they keep giving him really tough matchups. I think I don't know that Jason High's wrestling is good enough to take Dos Anjos down, who showed surprisingly good counter wrestling against a guy who has proven to be the most dominating wrestler in the lightweight division. I mean, Dos Anjos was shockingly hard to take down against Nurmagomedov, who has just completely thrashed every wrestler he's faced, taken them down, held them down. He's just like a wet blanket once he gets a hold of you. And Dos Anjos looks good. And then when he does go to the ground, Dos Anjos has some really, really good jiu-jitsu. He's got a great guard game, great sweeps, good submissions, really good at getting back to his feet when he wants to. And his Muay Thai is solid, man. He's got that. I think he's got the best Rafael Cordero brand Muay Thai in the world right now.
In the world?
From that whole camp, I think he's the best guy in terms of clean striking technique of all of Cordero's fighters at the moment. Not the best Muay Thai striker in the world. That would be absurd. But the best Cordero striker right now, I think, is Rafael Dos Anjos. And
are you done? Wrap it up, Connor? Come on.
Yeah,
are you done?
I
thought he was finishing. I mean, I'm trying to keep the show on the road.
Yeah, I'm finishing. Dos Anjos, I don't think he's going to be able to finish Jason High, but it's Dos Anjos' fight.
And
Connor, you have some bad gas, I think, and it sounds funny. I'd like you to get a lock on that.
There's a dog in the background whining. You can hear that?
I wanted to argue on your Cordero statement, but I guess I can't really think of someone with better Muay Thai out of Cordero's club.
I mean, who is there right now? There's Verdum. There's
and his Muay Thai has come a long way.
Ask Travis Brown about that.
It's good, but Dos Anjos has the fluidity. Dos Anjos against Cerrone looked really sharp on his feet.
Well, and it's funny because Dos Anjos has improved his fluidity in his striking because before he was kind of it just wasn't quite as fluent. And now he's looking good, and his wrestling has come along really well. But Verdum didn't have any power before, and I don't even know where the hell that came from. I kind of agree with Connor here. Although it makes it a little bit interesting that High's dropping down because not only is he big, but he was a pretty physically imposing fighter as a welterweight. So that might be the X factor of the wild card. But man, Dos Anjos is a good example of a guy who's just made slow, gradual, and really smart improvements to his game, and it's showing. I mean, he's been in the mix now almost throughout his whole UFC career. So big credit to him. And the thing you got to love about him is he is extremely offensive. I mean, in all facets. And the fact that a lot of the Brazilians that come in the killer combo, and it's also, you know, not coincidentally, the most exciting medley of skills you can have in MMA is top-notch jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. I mean, that's excitement waiting to happen. The fact that he's bridged the gap and brought wrestling into the mix, so if he's not doing well on the feet now, he doesn't have to ask or be crafty. He can change levels and try to take it there. Even if he doesn't, the fact that he's got that kind of ace in his pocket, you know, so I'm going to go with Dos Anjos here. There's not a lot of guys I would pick over him at this point.
Yeah, he didn't quite. He got cut out of the contention loop by possibly the best guy in the division. So it's a big step up for Jason High in his lightweight debut, and the odds makers agree. They've got RDA favored anywhere from minus 295 all the way up to minus 300, 370. And Jason High is the underdog. The KC Bandit is dogging it to the tune of plus 210 all the way up to plus 257. That brings us to flyweights John Dodson and John Moraga, who I also owe an apology because I confused him with John Lineker on the Care Don't Care, one of my most careless mistakes on that careless show, and was making jokes about him not making weight. Moraga does sit down on his punches though, and will have trouble with Dodson's speed. But,
it's easy to confuse. Yeah. They both have the same name, John, and you don't.
Exactly, and they're both flyweights. Like, you know, how many?
John's
how
not a common.
Lineker's not a flyweight. Lineker's a 129 pounder.
Yeah, that's exactly. And so that's what I had to talk about. But Moraga, he made it all the way up to nearly the top of the division. Now he's in a tough fight with John the Magician Dodson. What do you think, Connor?
This is the other tough matchup. The biggest name fighters in the card, except for the main event, are the ones that are the least competitively matched. Because I think that John Moraga is a top flyweight, but I think that this is a really bad style matchup for him. Moraga's got good wrestling that hasn't quite carried over in MMA as well as it could, but still good wrestling. I really like his boxing. He's got good jiu-jitsu too, but John Dodson is just like a powerhouse. He's so fast, he's so explosive, and he can do that for 5 rounds. I mean, he didn't start to get maybe 4.5 rounds. He didn't really start to tire until the very end of his fight with Mighty Mouse. And John Dodson is just an athletic animal. So, and also Moraga didn't exactly look great in his last fight against was that Ortiz?
What kind of dog is that? Sorry.
That's a whippet. Oh, she's standing on the couch. Yeah.
Yeah, posing. Sorry.
That's a whippet. He didn't exactly look good against Dustin Ortiz, and even though I was rooting for him, I kind of think he should have lost that fight. I could see why everyone was upset about that controversial decision, and it's because he just he has no fight IQ, man. What was he doing against Ortiz? He was whooping his ass on the feet and then just trying to take him down, and he was getting out-grappled every time it went to the ground, and yet he kept going for takedowns for no reason.
He could have been hurt. I was thinking maybe he had hurt his hand or something.
That's possible.
And there was some kind of... Because I've learned, I learned slowly, but I've learned over the years that when fighters start doing something that makes no sense at all, there's often a reason for it.
That's true. I should give him the benefit of the doubt, because in every other way, technically, he is a very impressive fighter. He really is. He didn't look great against Carriazo, but that's the other thing. Is Dodson a southpaw?
Yeah.
Okay, so Moraga's going to lose, because the last time that Moraga looked really unimpressive was against a southpaw, Chris Carriazo, who's not an amazing southpaw. He just goes to like winging wild right hands because whoever in his camp has convinced him that every other aspect of boxing goes out the window the moment the guy carries his right hand forward. So, yeah, Moraga's going to lose, and Dodson will probably knock him out because Moraga doesn't know how to fight a southpaw.
There's a hometown factor here as well. John Dodson out of Greg Jackson's camp right here in Albuquerque.
Well, Moraga's also from Arizona.
Arizona is not New Mexico. Albuquerque is in New Mexico.
Prove it.
Oh, he's from Phoenix, but you know he'll have fans there. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
He might have fans there. That is a long way from home. I can tell you. That is a long drive from Phoenix.
Down here in the south, that's a long way from home, boy.
That is, and it's west, not the south. For God's sake! All right, Dallas.
Agree with everything Connor said. I was really impressed
Except
with
for the part
Moraga's
about Phoenix and Albuquerque being the same town. I hope. Anyway.
So another personal fave. Useless Gomez, Moraga slaughtered him in his debut, and I was really hoping that Gomez would make a run in the UFC or at least be able to hang out for a while. Good cat, good fighter. Since then, though, I mean, you know, at this point, John Dodson, I'm not going to pick anyone to beat him. Has he ever fought Benavidez? I'm just airing my
No,
stupidity
that would be a
now.
fun fight, though. That would be a great
Yeah, I
fight.
don't know why they have not made that fight, because I was about to say the only person I'd pick over Dodson is DJ. So that fight needs to happen like immediately. That would be a sweet fight. Dodson
Absolutely.
Dodson
Over
has
Benavidez, you mean? You'd pick the only person you wouldn't pick over him is Benavidez?
the only okay. So in the
Demetrius Johnson is who he meant by DJ, right?
yeah,
Okay.
does Joseph? I mean, I'm not an
Didn't you say
alpha bet.
Benavidez? He has fought.
He said DJ. He didn't say JB.
Well, he has fought. So who are you saying you would pick over John Dodson?
Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse.
He has fought him, and he lost to him.
I'm aware of that, but he has not fought. I was going to say that until I thought about Joseph Benavidez, and that's when I thought, damn, have those two.
Yes, okay.
So awkward train of thought again. I'm just like airing all the weird, thoughts in my. All right, Jesus, we got to wrap this up. So John Dodson has a really unique set of skills. He's fast as shit, both with his footwork. He actually might have better, in some ways. I don't have time to, or I don't even want to explain it all, but in some ways, for counter striking, his footwork is way better than Demetrius. I won't say way better, but better from an offensive standpoint. And he's fast. The way he pivots to set up his left hand, I think he knocked everybody out on the Ultimate Fighter and then knocked out Dillashaw using the same right kind of a V-step or a pivot to load up his left hand. So for him to have that kind of quickness in itself is one thing. On top of that, the dude is athletic as hell, and he is physically strong. I mean, he is a house, a lot of physical strength. And on top of that, the fact that he has accuracy and punching power, I mean, that is a very unique and deadly package. And Moraga's tough. I wish he'd go back when he was in close range in the clinch to using those elbows that he shellacked Useless with. Yeah. I mean, that was a thing of beauty. He's like a blender in close range. John Dodson is not the kind of cat that you can just get in close range and sit there and punish. So I'm going to go Dodson here. I mean, no offense to Moraga, I do think he's a super, super legit fighter, but man, I mean, Dodson for sure.
And the odds makers agree. They've got Dodson heavily favored, anywhere from -490 all the way up to -550. Moraga's the underdog, anywhere from +350 all the way up to +415. So +300 up to 415. So pretty widespread. And the flyweights, I too want to see Benavidez versus Dodson, and I think that they should take advantage of their shallow pool of flyweights to mix and match more. Let's see all of these guys in every possible combination. I think they should do that with everybody, honestly. I have a whole, if I ran the circus program written in my head about how the UFC should be doing this to handle this flood of fights and fighters so that fans can comprehend. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
I'd be having a tournament. I don't know if that's what you meant, but tournament it up. Tournament.
I think they should have basically a league, like have 16 guys in each division every year, and only add new guys in case of injury or some other substitution. And even if a guy goes 0-3, 0-4 for the year, let him ride it out. Let everybody see him. Everybody knows who's in the top tier of the UFC that year. And if you lose, then you go down to one of the regional circuits. I don't
think Americans can do that, because like when K1 had tournaments in Japan, all the top fighters had loads of losses in their records because they were constantly fighting each other, and it was accepted. Whereas here we're used to having our Floyd Mayweathers and our Manny Pacquiaos, and once they lose, they're garbage to Americans.
I think that fight fans are a little different though, but
I don't.
You're right. Most of my experience with the league phenomenon does come from K1 and Pancrase, and also Pride, where you had relatively small pools. But also, the glory days of early Zuffa UFC, you had this great round robin between Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, Randy Couture, and Vitor Belfort, where you saw all four guys fight each other in every combination. And my biggest regret is, why didn't Babalu Sobral get to fight anybody besides Chuck Liddell? But anyway, that brings us to the co-main event. Diego Sanchez and Ross Pearson in the co-main event. And this fight is at lightweight. Who wants to talk about this first?
Well, I'll go because I don't have a ton of say. I mean, what do you say about a Diego Sanchez fight? I mean, unless he's going to surprise everybody, there's never any surprises. You know what you're going to get. It's still interesting, though, because Pearson is the kind of guy who could potentially be swarmed by Diego's just nonstop, incessant bull rushes. Pearson's a phenomenal boxer, but he's not a range boxer, which is bad against Sanchez. Pearson's not the kind of guy that can establish range and keep someone on the end of his jab. He can do that, but he has not done it often nor won a lot of fights definitely based on that principle. He's more of a close range boxer, and he's phenomenal. He's very artful head movements, the way he mixes up and forms up his combinations. Great left hand, man. He always finds a home for that left hand. Sometimes he'll go straight, or he'll go downstairs, or he'll roll it over. His left hand is always a big factor. And that, to me, that's what makes this interesting. You know what Diego's going to do, but Pearson, he just hasn't shown like the good sprawl and brawl distance-based game plan to keep a guy like Diego off. So is expected and maybe transparent is what Diego's, I guess you could call it a strategy, what he's going to do. I think he'll get some mileage out of it here against Pearson. Pearson also isn't like a one-punch knockout guy, so I don't know if that's good or bad for Diego. It depends on whether you'd like to see him, prefer to have him turned out with one shot or take a bunch of shots over the course of a 3-round fight. And that's the way I kind of see this happening. I'm not sure who's going to win, but I do see this as being a longer, none of these guys, unless I'm wrong, again, I'm doing everything from memory now, they're not known for quick and electric finishes. These are attrition guys that they want to, heart and will, and they'll slowly chip away at one another. Man, I'm going to pick Ross here, but the reason I hesitated is I do see Ross being able to do a little bit what Martin Kampmann did, but of course Kampmann lost that fight because everyone thinks running forward and failing at something is aggression when you have to actually succeed in executing an offensive technique. But the fact remains, the judges will see what Diego's doing as aggression, and that could be bad if this goes to the cards, and it could go to the cards. So I'm going to go Pearson, but who knows what will happen here.
And Connor?
God, I'm going to say, boy, this is a really hard fight for me to pick. I think that Pearson is a guy I can't trust. I don't know if I'm falling deep into Eugene's terminology here, but Pearson is a guy who I really like, but he's a guy I can't really trust to turn in the kind of performance I know he's capable of. Whereas Diego Sanchez is a guy I can always trust to do the same exact thing every single fight. You know exactly how Sanchez, that's what makes Sanchez a really good gatekeeper, because you know exactly what what's been proven when a fighter beats him.
And it doesn't make it easy to stop that what's coming
exactly, because he's not easy to stop. So it's, you think you can fight a guy like that, or a guy like Antonio Margarito. Yes, he's incredibly hittable, but he doesn't care about getting hit. And if you start to tire, or if you start to get scared or frightened or anxious, he's going to jump on that. So I think that Ross Pearson at his best is capable of beating Diego Sanchez and possibly even knocking him out. I think that Pearson can do that. And I think that Pearson's very good at, he's an aggressive counter striker. He's got aggressive defense. Anytime he slips, he's looking to come back with a shot. He doesn't just defend and let the guy throw things and try to make him miss. He makes you pay when he makes you miss, which is exactly what you need against Sanchez. But Pearson's also, again, a guy who's been prone to these kind of mental lapses. You can't really trust him to always bring his A game in a fight.
He's also a tad chinny.
Yeah, he's been, and he recovers well. He recovers well, but he's not exactly difficult to drop. If he fights like he did against Edson Barboza, a fight that I thought he won, that would be great. He could beat Diego Sanchez. If he fights like he just did against Melvin Gillard, not as impressive. Not nearly as good a chance. So I'm going to pick Pearson too, but I would not be surprised at all if Sanchez beats him.
Yeah, after the Melendez fight, Sanchez, the way Sanchez hung with Gilbert Melendez, I have a hard time seeing Pearson dominating him easily. And if Pearson can't dominate him easily, remember what Sanchez dragged Martin Kampmann into, and I don't see Ross Pearson surviving that kind of war for any length of time. So I'm going to go out on a limb and make it for Sanchez here. But anyway, it's also a homer. Sanchez obviously trains with Greg Jackson in Albuquerque. Ross Pearson, however, is favored by the odds makers anywhere from -178 all the way up to -190, and Sanchez is the underdog anywhere from +147 up to +160, and that brings us to the headliner, lightweights, Benson Henderson, the former champ, against Rustam Khabilov, a guy he thought was Khabib Nurmagomedov when this fight was first announced. So I'm not the only one that mixes these guys up. And Khabilov apparently coming off a win in the gym against flyweight #1 contender Ali Bagatinov.
An unsanctioned win.
Yes, an unsanctioned win. What are your thoughts on this one, Connor?
Well, Khabilov's unsanctioned open weight win against Ali Bagatinov is very impressive. But in the actual sanctioned fight world, this is a very difficult fight to pick. I think, for me, this fight comes down to mentality, really, because I think both guys have the tools to beat each other. So it really comes down to what mentality they bring into the octagon. And when I look at Benson Henderson these days, ever since I think even against Gilbert Melendez, you could excuse that performance. But ever since Pettis took the title from him, he has not had that desire to win. He doesn't look like he wants to beat guys up anymore. He looks like he wants to win on scorecards. He looks like he wants to look imposing and look cool and break will. Yes, Dallas?
Even when he was the champ, wasn't he like that?
Yeah, that's always been my knock on him.
I don't think so. I think his second fight against Edgar was like that, but the first one was good. He beat the tar out of Nate Diaz, and he did look like a bully in that fight. Like, he wanted to beat Nate Diaz up. And I think Melendez is one of the best fighters in the world, so that was, a justifiably close fight. And he was kicking Melendez's legs out from under him and trying to beat him up as best he could. He just couldn't box with Gilbert. Certainly, he's never looked, since winning the title, he's never looked as great as he did against guys like Guida and Jim Miller. I mean, those are the kind of, and the old Cerrone wins, like those are what we all remember fondly about Ben Henderson. And I don't think he's ever going back to that. I really think he's at a point where it almost seems like he's lost his passion for fighting. Like, he doesn't really like it anymore. He just kind of keeps doing it. Whereas Rustam Khabilov is, he's Dagestani. He comes from a part of the world that's like so poor and mean that they all have to share like one of three names. And they have,
Nate can get him right, maybe.
Yeah, it's hard. They have to share the same name, all of them. They're all named. What's the name that they all have? I can't even remember it.
John.
It's the Russian version of Muhammad. Magomedov. They're all named Magomedov or Khabilov, apparently. Anyway, this is a guy like we look at Mexican boxers. We look at the Dagestani fighters. There's all kinds of I can't think of any right now, but there's all kinds of regions in the world that are depressed areas, and they produce mean. Depressing is not the same as depressed. Corpus Christi is what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
They produce mean, tough fighters who are not willing to give up a fight. Benson Henderson fights like a guy who, if it gets tough, would be willing to let it slip through his fingers, whereas Khabilov does not. I don't think Khabilov is willing to lose a fight if it's in his power to stop it from happening. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Khabilov. I think that he's going to bring it. I think he might, Henderson's got the cardio. That's the thing. So if Khabilov's body fails him, then he's going to struggle against a guy like Henderson. But I don't think Henderson pushes a pace like he used to. I don't think he's as dynamic with his wrestling or his scrambling as he used to be. And I think that Khabilov this is going to be his breakthrough fight.
And Dallas?
Can't disagree with any of that. And I'm not sure what to. I think, when you said he's willing to let a fight slip, I don't know. It's just that the contrast that, like you mentioned, his UFC debut, that trifecta of fights was, just like classic Ben Henderson. I loved all of that. Those elbows and his pace and his pressure. People just could, it was almost like weathering the storm that he brought. And to me, that's the biggest difference is his pace. His pace is very complacent, almost passive now. Like he's almost willing to counter more. I would definitely like to see him go out and fuck somebody up, at least have that mentality to tear into people rather than, and it seems like almost all, not really young fighters, but fighters at some point come to the stage where when they get in the big leagues, it's, hey, now I just can't be that instinctual, brutal guy. I need to remember what I do in training. I need to remember technique. And that line is a very hard one to walk because we've seen some guys, and I don't know, maybe Ben's doing that, maybe he's not. But from a fan standpoint, I would really like to see that. I think it would probably suit him well. I don't know what to expect from Khabilov here. I'm going to go with Henderson based on his takedown defense. And I think, his scrambling is phenomenal. Even though, given Khabilov's credentials, Bendo's proven that right now. I don't even know what the stats are, but I do not recall him getting taken down, nor, if that happened, anyone really making...
Frankie Edgar took him down, but he could not hold him down. Every single time he got down, he got right back up.
Got right back up, right. So And then the way he did that, Edgar did that, was with quickness and setups and just ridiculous zigzagging and all that shit. I could be wrong. I don't think Khabilov is quite ready for this level. I mean, so list his UFC opponents thus far. I mean,
he just beat Jorge Masvidal in very impressive fashion. He outstruck him. Yeah, he outstruck him. He couldn't take him down, which is something. He couldn't take him down, but he outstruck Jorge Masvidal, and he knocked him down with a wheel kick to the jaw, which is pretty awesome.
And I hate to say it, but because I love Masvidal, but he's another guy that is totally hot and cold.
Yeah.
I mean, ranging from every time he got set up to make a run at the title in Sengoku, he got knocked out by fucking Rodrigo Dam. Yeah. And then he was going to go wreck shop. Everyone was talking about a big collision with Eddie Alvarez, and he was, on the wrong end of the submission of the year, that inverted triangle from Tobi Amada. So, but there's no question, Masvidal's a top fighter. This is another one. I'm not quite sure what to expect here, because Ben Henderson can be the guy we talked about before, who's in your face, throwing elbows, just devouring you, or he can just sit back and almost kind of point fight, look to counter and throw a couple strikes here and there. I'm going to go with Henderson here. I guess I'm just going to sit and kind of blather about what ifs and hypotheticals.
It's a weird turnaround, though, isn't it? I mean, Henderson went from the guy who loved getting into brawls so much that he would just abandon intelligent fighting in order to beat you up and give you the chance to hit him. And now it's everything he does is so safe.
That's why I mentioned that titleitis, man. Once you get that UFC belt around your waist, you become more and more cautious. It's like some kind of curse, like Tolkien's ring. I mean,
but it hasn't gone away since losing the belt, No,
once you don't get rid of it. I mean, you get that cautious.
Keep saying a fighter sucks after he loses, and fighters like Yushin Okami get cut even though they're one of the best, but they're not exciting, it's not going to be shocking that fighters are going to start to fight safe. You know what I mean? Especially if you got the belt. And I think the reason I brought up that line between kind of fighting instinctually and spontaneous versus, that's what I don't know if Connor, if you were correct, but that's my assumption, that he thought, hey, I'm the title now, I can't just go out and brawl with people, I need to be smart, which is normal. He's coming up. He's been in the spotlight for a while now, but I wouldn't say he totally understands the ins and outs. Fighters are constantly evolving. I imagine he's kind of playing with that line. I'd like to see him bring back some of the old shit a little bit.
Oh, I just thought of something. Josh Thompson did kind of take Ben Henn down at will.
Yeah, I know, because Josh Thompson is a beast, man.
It was like these beautiful body lock takedowns. Josh
Thompson is still somehow the most underrated lightweight ever in MMA.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's his injuries and his personality. That's a good point, though, because the body locks were key for Thompson. I can see Khabilov getting some body locks on Henderson.
You know what I'm saying? Thompson had all his success with those kind of Greco, those big 5-point throws.
Thompson has the footwork to cut him off and force him into the clinch, and I just don't know about Khabilov being quick of the feet and disciplined enough with his footwork. Because Henderson is he moves very strangely, and he throws those body kicks with reckless abandon. I don't know. The odds makers have Henderson favored, though, anywhere from -230 all the way up to -260. Khabilov, the dog, anywhere from -190 up to +206. So not plus 185 up to 206. Not an enormous.
Before you move on,
yeah. Well, this is it. This is as far as we can go.
I know, but usually there's no gap in there, and you just move along. I always want to politely.
I'll let you have final statements.
How tall is Khabilov? Is there a big size difference here? And while you're looking at that, you brought up a great point about Thompson, and that's because I think Thompson is a master of whatever you want to call it, cage craft, ring craft, cage generalship.
Cutting out the ring. Khabilov's 5'10", and Bendo is 5'9". So
okay, I don't know. That could be a little bit. I don't see much, but that's kind of what I don't know about Khabilov. So Josh Thompson has been around long enough to know how to hit angles and throw combinations long enough to lullaby someone to not be ready when he knifes in and changes levels and attacks their hips with a double or with a body lock. And I just don't know if Khabilov has got that or not. I think that's what Thompson excels in.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And you know what? Yeah, Thompson has great footwork. Great unorthodox but very effective footwork. Moves around really, really well. And,
Josh Thompson is like a top 5 lightweight in the world, and he has been for a while.
Yeah, I agree.
Everyone unanimously, when Gil was killing it in Strikeforce, oddly enough, for a non-UFC fighter, all the rankings had Gil in as 1, 2, or 3, whatever. And Josh Thompson like basically fought evenly with him all the time.
No, absolutely.
But Thompson was like barely in the top 20. I don't know. It's crazy.
That's the
Yeah,
thing.
well, I think the injuries were one factor, and also the fact that he lost 2 out of the 3 fights with Melendez.
Yeah.
And also
Henderson,
Melendez had that just dominant performance against Kawajiri, and Thompson really didn't have that until he beat Nate Diaz in the UFC. So.
Thompson also got badly outclassed by Kawajiri.
That is so literally a head
He's hot
scratcher.
and cold, man.
Obviously,
He's hot and cold.
It's the injuries, man. He trains with these behemoths at AKA and gets hurt all the time.
Yeah, and I say again, I think this is about mentality, because Ben Henderson is still good enough to make people fight boring, terrible fights with him. He made Josh Thompson, who was one of the best lightweights in the world, and who I don't think was injured, at least for part of that fight, he made him fight a slow-paced fight.
Thompson got injured fairly early in that fight.
That's true. But still, Benson Henderson is imposing. He's a scary guy to be in the cage against. He's big. Anytime you hit him, he just doesn't react. I mean, he doesn't.
He's the king of no-selling his opponents.
Yeah, absolutely. He makes you look like the biggest wimp in the world when you're attacking.
I think he's more maddening than scary, because he's not like he's just going to savage you, but he is going to be very hard. He's going to fuck with your head. He's going to make you fight his game.
It's going to be very hard. Sorry.
Some of us aren't thinking like that as these young gentlemen, Dallas.
I think the fight that happened in the gym between Khabilov and Bogatinov is actually the perfect indicator of the kind of mentality that Khabilov has. He's like a thug almost, man. He comes from like a rough neighborhood. He doesn't care if you're smaller than him or if it makes no sense. If it's right before his big fight, he's going to get into a literal barehanded fist fight in the gym with a teammate. He's mean, and I think that is going to be what carries him over against Henderson. I know it's a long shot, but
I like it. I hope it comes true. I'm tired of Ben Henderson's reign of error, and so I got to go with Khabilov here as well. Any final thoughts on this card?
I have an hour-long attention span, and no offense, we waited that long for Connor, so I was all over the place for this one.
Yeah, it's all Connor's fault. Everybody remember, if you're giving it a thumbs down, put a note in the comments that you're
make sure to tweet me with how disappointed you are, and while you're doing that, follow me as well at
at Connor Cunts.
Ouch. Boxing Bush, BUSCH, and at Uncle Justice is Dallas Winston, where you can get that kind of potty mouth tweeting at will. Follow me at Kidney. Read us all on BloodyElbow.com. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube. That's MMANation.com, not with a period. It's one of the stupidest YouTube names going, but it's ours. And we'll be back. Connor, are you going to join me for 6th round after the fights on Saturday?
I'm not sure. It depends if I'm going to do a 13th round for Cotto versus Martinez or not.
All right, so I might be doing the 6th round solo because Zane Simon is moving, but we'll see. And Dallas is going to be tweeting all the fights and can't man up to go for that extra mile for the 6th round for the fans, for you, the fan. Dallas doesn't care enough. So tweet Dallas and tell him he's weak, mentally weak for not coming on the 6th round.
Actually, if fans offer encouragement, like, hey, we would really like to see that, then I would do it.
Oh, I think they would, man. Dallas, I'll encourage you right now. I think they would love to have you on the 6th. It's fun, too. You know, it's only like
if you want to see Dallas on the 6th round, tweet at Uncle Justice. And this is Kid Nate signing off. Adios, MMA aficionados.
Kid Nate's ready to go, y'all.
Hey, the show's over, man. It's done. This is it. Thanks, everybody.